I am still sort of stuck on why this fight happened to begin with. I understood why Conor McGregor wanted to do it. I understood why Floyd Mayweather wanted to do it. I just never thought the UFC would allow it to happen. Now, because they've got Conor under contract, they could absolutely prevent this from happening. Now, Conor could say, okay, screw you, I'm going to sit it out and not fight. But essentially what he'd do is he'd age into retirement, I guess. I mean, I'm saying they could have a standoff, and the UFC, because of the contract, and they can keep you from competing in other combat sports, would not allow it to happen. Now, I realized at some point there was a lot of money to be made off of it, but for as much money as is being made, it's almost, you know what it is? It's kind of like introducing your super hot girlfriend to your friend that's much hotter than you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, here's my really handsome buddy boxing, right? who makes 10 times the amount of money, I make on a given night, and now they're off hanging. Yeah, I'd just be worried maybe I wouldn't see her again. Now, I think what has changed in that, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this, because I think what has changed on that since this conversation first started taking place is that this company went from being owned by the Fertitta brothers to the new ownership, and that new when you pay $2 million for something and you turn it into a $1 billion company, everything you see around you looks like profit. Everything looks like success. It's like we had a very minimal investment, so everything I'm seeing looks like awesomeness. But when you pay a couple of $1 billion for something, everything you see immediately looks like, do we have to have that? Can we cut that? Does that person have to work? Maybe we should cut back on this or that. So when they see an opportunity to get the reports are 40 million, 44 million, something like that, that's a hell of a payment to make back on your whatever loan you had or something like that. So I'm just putting a lot of ideas into your head there, and I want your thoughts, Dan, on what do you think changed about this fight going from it's not going to be possible, this is ridiculous to even talk about, to here we are, and Dana's even acknowledging that, hey, if Conor comes back to mixed martial arts, I may have to give him equity, and I understand that now, and I've never been willing to do that before. What do you think?
We've never had a platform like this before as a sport, and the only person that could have done that is Conor.
Yeah.
And it's important for the UFC to have a good relationship with Conor because of how prolific he is. He's one of the few people that's transcended the sport. Obviously Ronda being the other one. I would say John Jones, but at the moment he looks like he's removed himself from that group. So Conor is a standard bearer for mixed martial arts, and particularly for the UFC. And the amount of people that will, for the first time, be watching even just clips of mixed martial arts this week, that's a massive benefit. Plus, obviously, as you said, there's a big chunk of money coming there. And Conor's not the kind of person that he marches to the beat of his own drum, which is why he's in this position in the first place. So if the UFC tried to keep a leash on him and tried to hold him back from doing these things, the relationship would just deteriorate. And there are ways in and out of these relationships. I don't know the ins and outs of the contracts, but there are ways around these things, I'm sure. And Conor would find a way, even just through stubbornness. He could sit it out, and he could deprive the UFC of him as a commodity.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to me. I think the hesitation in the beginning was that they thought Floyd was bluffing, and I did as well. I thought Floyd was just posturing, just trying to keep his name relevant, keep his face in the mainstream eye, and there's not a single boxer on the planet that can give him that right now. So, him talking about fighting Conor McGregor kind of made sense to me in the beginning, but when they signed the contract, I was as surprised as anybody because I didn't think it was going to happen. But it makes sense for the UFC. It makes sense for the UFC. The reality is, as good as Conor is right now, if he comes back to the UFC, he's facing Tony Ferguson, Kevin Lee, or Khabib Nurmagomedov. All three of those, as good as Floyd is as a boxer, all three of those have the potential to wreck Conor.
Yeah.
And they wreck him in his sport and take his belt. So we know you've been following this sport as long as I have. It's very short-lived. You know, someone can fall off immediately. You know, they can be right at the top of the game. Look at Ronda. She was right at the top of the game. One head kick, and it's leveled.
Yeah.
And the whole of women's mixed martial arts was affected by that knockout.
Yeah.
So you never know what's going to happen. Conor could potentially lose his next fight in mixed martial arts, lose his belt. Kevin Lee could choke him out. Khabib Nurmagomedov could take him down and smash him into pieces. You know, we just don't know what can happen. So it's quite safe to put him in there with Floyd Mayweather. It's a win-win situation. I mean, so he gets lit up over 12 rounds and loses a decision. It was Floyd Mayweather.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.